Okay, so this is probably a question that you might have been asked before, but before you started, so your first big kind of like break in the comics was Judge Dredd for 2000 AD. So before that, like, kind of, what were you doing that kind of like helped you get noticed by 2000 AD?
Well, I probably spent about 2 years trying to get in the comic book industry before I got in the comic book industry. I was in my when did I leave art college? I left art college. Hang on, I always have to think about this. Didn't have a foundation course 84, 85, so 85, 86, 87. Left art college 87. Spent some time in London trying to make it in a rock band, which brings it full circle back to back to music. But obviously that didn't work out. I wasn't in London for that long. It was a lot. It was about 8 months. Then moved back to where my birthplace is, Shrewsbury in Shropshire. Basically because everything else in London, just wasn't working out, and it was a kind of a last-ditch attempt. Running out of money. Sort of just doing kind of dead-end jobs with not much prospect, of just completely directionless. So moved home, thought about getting back into comic books as almost just on a whim. As soon as I started drawing again, I realised what I kind of been missing since my youth, and up until I was about 18, before I went and did my art foundation course, all I wanted to be was a comic book artist. So I had this sort of period from 18 up until, mid to late 20s of not doing or not wanting to be a comic book artist. So I spent pretty much two and a half, roughly that, sort of getting this portfolio and constantly, adding to it and revising it, and going to the conventions that were there in the late 80s. So, I mean, I was lucky because at the time comics were big news, and Marvel and DC especially could afford to send mostly, 3 or 4 editors a piece over to the UK cons, and there was only 2 in the country at the time. There was one in London and one in Glasgow, but they would send editors to.
Sorry, terribly professional of me there. Sorry.
Very unprofessional.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry.
So I'd go to those, and it was great because it saved me going over to the States or whatever. And and there were loads of British publishers as well, not just 2000 AD in Dread magazine, there were various other people, doing stuff. There was Tundra, there was A1 were doing, there was a book called A1, Deadline, all these different publishers. There's a lot of stuff to hit each time. And I basically spent 2 years trying to do this. And then I was at Glasgow one year, and I had some 2000 AD work that I'd just sort of been doodling on before in my portfolio. And I took it to a show. Funny enough, I took it to show Alan Grant, who obviously wasn't an editor. I think he has been an editor, but not at the time anyway. And he liked what he saw, but obviously he couldn't offer me a job. He was doing Batman at the time, so he was a big, obviously a big name. And I sort of cheekily said, well, if they say, over at 2000 AD, if they if they like my stuff, can I say you'll do something with me? And he went, sure, like that, probably thinking that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went over to 2000, well, it was Fleetway at the time, but 2008 Judge Dredd magazine. They liked what they saw, and they said, yeah, we like this. And I sort of went, Alan Grant will write me a story.
Wow.
And I don't know if that actually got me my first, sort of, well, it was just a one-off Dredd story, a 10-pager for the Dredd magazine. But Alan did actually write that story. It was the first thing I did was by Alan Grant. So, I'm sure Alan was just doing a load of stories for them, and they just probably took one of his scripts and said, "Is it all right if this new guy illustrates?" And he probably went, "Yeah, sure." What?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any big sacrifice on anyone's behalf. But it got me my first job. And then straight after I did that Dredd thing, I did a tryout for Devil in War for 2000. Or no, that was for the Judge Dredd magazine at the time as well. But I didn't get it because Sean Phillips drew that first book, and since then Sean's become a really good friend of mine. But it was kind of funny, sort of, not losing out to Sean, because Sean was obviously already a really established name.
Yeah.
But then they gave me one of Sean's scraps, which was the second book of Judge Armitage, because Sean had done the first book. So it's kind of weird how we've become good friends, but our careers have sort of been quite intertwined right from literally the beginning of my career. Sean was already kind of quite a well-established professional. I mean, he'd been in the industry since his teens, so he'd been a jobbing comic book artist for well over a decade before I got in. We're the same age. I was just a lot later. And I looked back since the Dredd magazine, to be honest. That was it. Armitage was pretty much 8 months to 9 months work. It felt like forever at the time, but that was it.
It's not only 15 years, is it? On a comic book.
Good point. Yes, 16 actually. 16.
Sorry, my bad. My apologies. Sorry.
That's all right. But yes. Well, obviously, I didn't expect to be committed to one book for 16 years. I always remember saying to people before The Walking Dead, what I really wanted to do was an ongoing series, because I was really capable of doing something like that, just in terms of being, efficient, fast, whatever. I've always been that ever since I've started. I've never missed deadlines. I've always been on time. I generally tend to get my stuff in before, and I was already building up a reputation for being, one of the fastest artists in the business. And then of course Walking Dead comes along, and I get my wish, but perhaps not 16 years.
Well,
I was thinking perhaps an ongoing series for 4 or 5 years would be quite nice. And then go on to something else, but
Wow. Hi everybody, this is James from the future. Just checking in to tell you guys that the full version of this video is now available on our Patreon. So if you enjoyed it, you can check it out there. Big shout out to our friend Pat for editing this video. Pat, please put up your links or socials or whatever if you feel like it. Also, big announcement, the anthology is now available on our website for a pay what you want fee, where you can get more of this interview with Charlie, plus 4 comic series and extra art, so it's definitely worth your while. The full interview will be available next week on our YouTube channel, so between now and then, hope you guys have a great week, and hopefully we'll have some more content for you in the future. Alright, ciao.